On this week's episode, we talk about the potential return of an unexpected Metal Gear Solid game, the gameplay demo of Metal Gear Solid Delta, Microsoft's new policy on unauthorized accessories, Bungie's massive layoffs and game delays, a potential Zelda collection coming this year, and more. All that tonight, but first, on to that beautiful bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, Episode 4. I am your host, the man whose Smash Bros. Fighter would have the pasty white skin tone of the Wii Fit trainer, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me is the man whose Smash Bros. Fighter would either say or yell his own name with every taunt, my co-host, I am Zaracon, also known as Justin. How you doing today, Justin?
I am doing quite well, and this has been a very interesting week, primarily Metroid related because first off, I got an email last week saying that a Figma order that pre-order I had for the Metroid Dread Samus figure had just been shipped, so sweet. I've waited a year for that. So it should be coming probably in a month or so. Then also, I saw that there were pre-orders going up for the first 4-figure Samus Aran figure from Metroid Prime. Considering that the original release versions are going up to $500 plus, I thought, paying $150 is, a better option. So I got that pre-order in. Yeah. And then last week, on Saturday, I was going shopping and I was trying to get something for my nephew. And while I was in the toy aisle, I saw this.
Oh,
whoops,
nice.
I don't know. Yeah.
Very nice.
Crazy thing is, I didn't even know that there were still other Metroid figures being made. And I thought this was just maybe a slight repackaging, but no, there actually is a slight different from the earlier run. So I said, I'm going to add that to my collection now. But, yeah, that's how my week's been.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, mine's been, it's been busy. Obviously, since the last recording, of course there was work and, normal stuff, but then there was, of course, editing the podcast and everything on Thursday, which, Thursday it's like usually it can be kind of a scramble to edit the video version, so that I can get it done at a decent time, get to bed at a decent time, and most importantly, get the podcast up before I go to bed so that it's ready to go Friday morning. And then on top of that, Friday morning I started my 24-hour live stream, which thankfully went very well. Raised more than the $300 that I was going for, which is a big improvement over last year, because last year I only got up to $150. But yeah. So then there was that, and then Saturday I basically took like a 3.5 hour nap after I went to bed, took a 3.5 hour nap, and then when I got up, I don't even remember what I did that day. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff that I had to do. I think it was mostly just like normal family stuff, like doing some stuff with the kids a little bit, and like honestly that day is kind of a blur, so I don't even remember what I did. But then it's like, okay, Sunday I have church, and then had to do a bunch of cooking for our family groups that we meet up in the evening every other Sunday, and that just happened to be the Sunday when we were meeting up. And of course, church before that had been really crazy because since I handle stuff with the sound and the live stream, and we were short a person who helps with that, it just made it so that I had that much more to get figured out at the last minute. And so it's like all that, and then getting back to the office on Monday and playing catch up for the day that I missed, and it's just been a crazy several days. And thankfully Although I did have to go into the office today so that I'd actually have a day in the office this week. The next 2 days I'm going to be at home, and I have plenty to do over the next couple days between conducting a new hire training for a big group of people. When the last couple I've been really lucky, I've only had one new hire to train the last 2 times I had to do it. So it's like this time I have 8 people, and I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it's still just like, it's just more that I have to take care of. And then Friday is my son's birthday. And so, yeah, it's been crazy. And it feels like I haven't quite caught up on sleep from after doing that live stream. And that's even with trying to go to bed at a decent time. And yeah, anyway.
Oh my goodness. that saying you were busy, I think feels to be a bit of an understatement.
Yeah, it's just been like that lately. There's just been a lot going on, and then trying to work on stuff for other things that I've told you about. They're just in the works. It's just lots of stuff I'm working on. So it's a busy life, but it is what it is. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot yesterday was Halloween too, so we had all this stuff with taking the kids out and everything else. And yeah. Anyway, enough talk about that. Let's talk about games. So, what have you been playing over the past week?
All right, so I think this should be something of a tradition now. So far, is I've been playing Sekiro some more, and I've been making some pretty solid progress. I've been steamrolling through the game, although I think I've hit another roadblock where I faced a major boss again, and this guy's I sort of understand what he's doing, but I still need to perfect my timing quite a bit because I am making blunders. I think perhaps one of the things that will make me better is playing when I'm not recording, because when I am recording through my through my Steam Deck docked, I can't hear the audio. So I think maybe just playing it in handheld mode will make things better, since I can actually hear the game. I've also been playing. Oh gosh, I don't even remember why I can't remember. I started playing God Eater 3. It's a game that I got through a Humble bundle. It's sort of, well, I mean, essentially it's a Monster Hunter, I guess, S game, and it's pretty interesting so far. It works pretty well. I guess one thing I would say so far is just playing on the Steam Deck. For some crazy reason, the gyro control is a bit wonky, so I had to disable that. But other than that, it's been pretty well so far, I'd say. And then yesterday I played Stardew Valley with some friends again. We've been playing it on and off. Yesterday our goal was to focus on increasing the stats of different areas which we hadn't been working on. So I was working on farming. I was helping out more with farming before. I was working primarily with mining and doing a little fishing here and there, but now I'm working more on our farm, and that's going pretty well. We're all doing different stuff now. And then shortly before we started this podcast, I was playing a little bit more of Vampire Survivors just for the fun of it. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
That sounds good. Yeah, my list is pretty extensive. So let's see here. Covering primarily stuff that I played on stream, because there was a bunch of stuff. So I started off playing some Ghost Runner 2. I mean, technically I started with something else, but I'll get to the other thing because it's kind of like it was my in-between game. But yeah, I played a good amount of Ghost Runner 2. Got past one of the bosses and was progressing, nicely through it. And man, like I one thing that I just realized is I remembered, oh yeah, there's supposed to be later in the game. There's like a motorcycle. You get a motorcycle. I'm not even outside yet, and
oh my goodness,
I'm absolutely loving this game. Like it is challenging. I mean, especially these platforming challenges in particular, they're crazy challenging sometimes, but it's so much fun. I have such a blast playing it, and like you'll probably be seeing footage from the stream. I may end up recording some separate footage if I have time, just because the download of my recorded footage is a little on the blurry side. I guess for some reason when you download from YouTube, it doesn't always download the highest quality, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm absolutely loving it, and it's fantastic. But in addition to that, I ended up playing some Outer Wilds. I mean, basically, it's the same thing, just trying to get that achievement. Basically, was just playing that like in between each game. So like, I would start off trying to get that achievement, then I'd move on to Ghost Runner. Then when I was ready to transition games, I'd go back to Outer Wilds, try to get that achievement, and then I'd move on to the next game. And the next thing I played, I could be remembering some of these out of order, so if I get some of these out of order, then it is what it is. But I did play some more Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I made some pretty good headway on that, on some of the DLC story stuff. I was pretty much enjoying it overall. Definitely, they did bring some stuff in that made the main character, Alexios, more relatable. I still don't find him nearly as relatable as Bayek, who is the protagonist from Assassin's Creed Origins. But I still just don't like him as much as a character in general. But it's still just kind of plugging away at it little by little, trying to see if I can completely finish up all the story stuff for the DLC. Additionally, I did play I played some Starfield. I guess that was probably the second game I was playing with Starfield. I made sure this time, make absolutely sure, yes, I did remember to mute the footage. I played a pretty good amount of Starfield, and just kind of plugging away at that as well. I didn't get to play as much as I would have liked necessarily, but it's more just, I can't remember the exact reason. Oh, I remember the reason. The reason why I stopped playing Starfield was because of another game that I played for a little bit, which I may or may not end up including footage in this, but one of my friends / coworkers had asked me what it would take for me to play a horror game on stream. And so I told him, if you donate $50, I'll play a horror game. And it has to be something free, because I don't have any horror games. I'm not going to go buy something. The game I played was a free indie horror game called After Hours. And basically I played that, because he donated the $50, so I started playing that, and I played for a bit, and it wasn't like super scary. Definitely, sort of made me jump like once or twice, but it wasn't like, it was definitely a low budget horror game. You could tell. The voice acting was really like, okay, this guy does not know how to voice act. Basically, the only real reason I stopped playing that was because I got to a point where, I wasn't getting caught by the bad guy, but I literally got stuck in the environment, and I couldn't proceed. Because I had accidentally knocked myself over like a bookcase, and there's no jump button. And so I was stuck on the other side of this bookcase. I couldn't get past it at all. And it was basically, unless the enemy came and got me, in which case it would send me back to before my save or whatever, then there wasn't any way for me to proceed without starting the game over again. So I ended up just quitting the game after, I think I played for an hour, maybe hour and a half of that. But then, let's see what else was there. I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting about, but it's probably more just that I'm telling these out of order. But I did get to play some games with my oldest son. So we started off by playing Box Boy and Box Girl on the Switch. and we played that for a while, and we actually beat it. So, well, that is, we finished 100%ing the main levels, and then we tried doing one of the bonus optional, some of the bonus optional levels, but they're all timed, and my son always kind of struggles with those. Like he kind of panics and doesn't. He needs time to think through things before he starts doing them, instead of trying to do these time things. And the rest of the levels aren't timed, so it was just kind of throwing him off, and we didn't really get anywhere with that. So instead, we ended up just deciding to play Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and that one we were definitely having a good time with, and I think that's probably going to be the next game we really play together, because I think that's a really good one. It's just fun, and I have yet to actually finish all the levels. I just decided that when I'm playing with him, I'm not going to worry about trying to get all the collectibles and completing all the objectives. It's just about playing the game, having fun with it, and that can be a really cool thing to do. But yeah, that was pretty fun. And then apart from that, also, I ended up later in the evening playing some Diablo 4 with my wife. What was really cool is, both with your help and just with some general fiddling around, I was able to figure out how to record both my screen and the Steam Deck screen at the same time, so that I could show both mine and my wife's games simultaneously while we were playing together, and that was pretty cool. We'll probably end up doing that occasionally, just streaming that together. That's kind of a fun way to do things. I mean, it's a game we like playing together anyway, and we both still have a long way to go in the story. She's not even done with Act 1, and I'm only in Act 2, I think. So, yeah, I mean, especially considering the fact that we paid for early access and everything. The idea with these games is more just the fact that it's something that we could do together, that we both enjoy, and my wife is not really much of a gamer in general. So, whenever I can find something like this that she enjoys playing, and we can just plug away at our own pace, then it ends up being a really good game. And we like, she got really into Diablo 3 on the Switch, and then we tried Diablo 2 Resurrected, and that one's harder, so she was having a hard time getting into that one. We played a little bit of Diablo Immortal on our phones together, and that one's a lot easier to get into, even if it is, riddled with microtransactions. It's playable without, but it's, yeah. Anyway. So we played, probably hour and a half or maybe 2 hours of that, and that was a good time. I definitely enjoy having the opportunity to play games along with her on that front. But then the last couple of games that I played during my stream, apart from jumping back into Ghost Runner, one of the games I played on my own separately, it's a little indie game called Gris, or Grease. I'm not sure. It's spelled Gris. And I started that and finished it during the stream. It took me about 4 hours to get all the way through it, and I didn't 100% it. I'm not sure if it's possible. Well, I think it is supposed to be possible to 100% it first time through, but obviously I missed some of the collectible things, so I didn't. But either way, it was an interesting indie title. I have no idea what the story was actually about. I think some of it you probably get more if you actually 100% it, but I may go back and try to finish up some stuff in that later on, but it's not really a priority for me right now. What I did do, though, for the last couple of things was I played, most notably, some Red Dead Redemption 2. And I made a lot of progress in the story. I finished up Chapter 4, started Chapter 5, and got most of the way through that. I ended up finishing 5 off-stream, and I'm actually just about, I'm like maybe halfway through Chapter 6, which is the final chapter, apart from the epilogue. And yeah, so it's a really solid game. I mean, it's not I still think I like the first game a bit better than this one, but the story is really good, and it's definitely worth playing. And of course, it runs great on Steam Deck and just on PC in general. It's extremely well optimized. So there's that. The only other game I played was kind of a game I bought on a whim. So I want to say it was like 20 some odd years ago. I don't remember exactly when this game was originally revealed, but there's a little game, you may have heard of it, called Devil May Cry. was revealed back in the early 2000s, and I thought it looked cool, but I think at the time I didn't have a PS2, and it's just one of those that I just never got to. And I had heard some things about some frustrations with some of the bosses early on in the game, and so like I had kind of just decided I wasn't going to try playing it for a while, but then I recently heard that 5 runs really well on Steam Deck, and I decided, and that it was on sale, and so I checked to see if any of the games were on sale. All of them were on sale. I was able to get all 6 Devil May Cry games for under $45 for the entire collection. So
Wow.
it was a really good deal, and even though like the HD collection was listed as unsupported, half the time a game listed as unsupported on Steam Deck runs perfectly fine. So I started playing the first Devil May Cry on Steam Deck, and that's the only place I've been playing it so far. But yeah, it runs flawlessly. You don't even have to use compatibility layers or anything. It just starts up immediately, no problem. 60 frames per second the whole time. I think like it might drop down 2 frames when you're like when it's initially loading in, but after that it's 60 the entire time. And yeah, I mean I'm digging it so far. Like it does have a little bit of that early PS2 jank to it, but overall it's pretty fun. I've only gotten through like first 2 full boss fights, and there's been a couple of like I've done some mini bosses, and there's like a reprise of one of the boss fights that I got through, which technically is optional, but I did it because it was supposed to give like an item that increases your health. And anyway, so yeah, I mean I haven't played a ton of it. I think I'm in like chapter 4 or something like that, or mission 4. I can't remember exactly how they're labeled, but yeah, overall it's pretty fun. So I just kind of felt like jumping into something different. And since the stream, it's basically just been that and Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's really about it. Yeah, lots and lots of games over the past week.
And
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna ask. I know you mentioned this before. Do you still intend on jumping back into the first Red Dead Redemption once you're done with 2?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, whether or not it'll be immediate will kind of just depend on how I feel when I'm done with 2. Because, like, of course, I have a rough idea of how 2 ends, but not really, because, like, I mean, 2 is a prequel to 1, so I know that at least... Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I have at least some indication of where some of the characters end up between 2 and 1. But I don't know exactly how everybody ends up where they are, and because of the fact that when I originally played 1, of course I didn't know who these characters were beforehand, now it just kind of will give a very different perspective on them when I encounter them. But anyway, yeah. I am planning to play 1. I don't know if it'll be immediately after I play 2, or if it'll be a little bit.
Nice.
All right. Anything else before we start getting into the news?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. So, we have a couple different pieces of news specifically related to Metal Gear Solid, and I figured we'd start with that. But before we start with that, I did have a question because I don't know if I've ever actually gotten a clarification on this. I don't know if I've ever actually asked you. Have you actually played Metal Gear Solid at all?
I played Snake Eater. Actually, I originally played that on the 3DS.
Okay.
And I played some of Twin Snakes via emulator. I
Gotcha.
can't remember if I did play any of the original PS1 game version or not, though.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
primarily
okay.
just like 3 and 1.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's good to know. So, we just recently had the Metal Gear Solid collection release, and that is the Volume 1 collection, which includes Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, as well as the NES games, which are not not canon, and then the original Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, and then a bunch of additional like bonus content. And with those having come out, there's basically the collection has had very mixed reception in terms of like the quality of the ports, which isn't surprising based on some things that I had seen previously about it. I mean, like for one, we already knew that the Switch version the cartridge was only going to include the 2D games. It wasn't going to have any of the 3D games at all on it, which is just Konami being Konami. But on top of that, all of the versions of Metal Gear Solid 1 are not in HD, and they're 30 frames per second. Which, you and I have talked about that, and I mean, it didn't end up on an episode that listeners will get to hear just because it's one of the ones that got messed up. But yeah, that's pretty much inexcusable. I'll actually be playing some footage here from overhead view of Metal Gear Solid 1 emulated through DuckStation on the Steam Deck, which is 60 frames per second and in HD. And I believe it scales even up to 4K if you are playing on a 4K screen. But it looks fantastic on there, and of course it runs extremely well at 60 frames. But anyway, that's kind of going off on a tangent. So related to this Metal Gear, there's been recently a discussion or a discovery through data mining that Metal Gear Solid 4 has been mentioned has been listed in there. And I don't know exactly the form of how they show this here, but Metal Gear Solid 4 has been stuck exclusively on the PS3 for years. Well, I mean, period. I mean, technically there's supposed to be a 360 build that just never got released because it was 4 was released as a PlayStation 3 exclusive, but 3 has never left the PS3. And I actually played that earlier this year for the first time, and I did enjoy it. It wasn't my favorite of the Metal Gear Solid games, but it was good. And yeah, I think that this is pretty cool. Because I should back up a little bit, because I don't remember if I actually got to cover this on the podcast, at least not where anyone's heard it but you and I. So I got into Metal Gear Solid really late. Like I played the first game, I think in either 2019 or 2020, probably 2019. And I played that on the Vita, the PS1 version emulation. And then I played through 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, Revengeance, and the first part of Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes, all this year. And I've actually played through Snake Eater 3 times this year, because I played it first on the Vita with that version, the HD version of that. Then I played it on the 3DS with the horrible frame rate and all. Because I mean, like when you're doing the opening mission, for anyone who's hasn't played it on 3DS, so the opening mission, the Virtuous mission, it actually runs pretty decently. Like it pretty much maintains 30 frames ish for most of it. It's pretty playable up through the Virtue's mission minus the cutscenes, which are very choppy. But then the boss fights chug so badly. Like, it is ridiculous how bad they run. And I basically just forced myself to play through it because I paid $80 for this cartridge because I just wanted it. It was like, I wanted it for my collection, and I was willing to accept it, and I didn't think it was going to be that bad. I just really didn't think it was going to be that bad, and so I suffered through it. I did beat it, and then I found out a bit later, after I soft modded my 3DS, that there is a quote-unquote cheat that makes it possible to get the game up to 30 frames per second on a new 3DS. And it actually stays locked pretty much at 30 frames, which is fantastic. It makes the game significantly better. It plays significantly better that way. So I ended up playing through it again that way. And I had also replaced my C-Stick with basically the kind of little red stick nub that you find on like Lenovo laptops, which I would never use it on a laptop. I think it's terrible there, but it works. It's significantly better than the little gray nub that they put on the new 3DS. So anyway, so yes. But all that being said, having played through all these games so far this year, started the Phantom Pain, just haven't finished it because Zelda came out at that time. Metal Gear Solid 4, I wished was on a portable device because that was literally the only Metal Gear Solid game I couldn't play on a portable device. And it pained me to have to play on my PS3 all the time. It's like, I mean, literally, I could play every other Metal Gear Solid game on a portable device. It was just this one that I couldn't play that way. I mean, even Metal Gear Solid 5, both Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain, Steam Deck, high settings, or medium to high settings, 60 frames per second across the board, 4 to 5 hours of battery life. It's fantastic how well they run on the Steam Deck. And I just wished that I had been able to do that with Metal Gear Solid 4, and now it looks like it's probably going to be in the next collection. Which I can only assume maybe they have the 360 build that they found, and they're able to work off of that, because I don't know how they would work it off of the PS3 build. But anyway, your thoughts on the matter?
No, yeah, that's definitely very true because I mean, I don't know if because of the fact that of course, because another reason would have been because of exclusive rights that Sony had with that one. But other than that, though, the PS3 architecture definitely would have been one of the limiting factors. And I can't even remember if there are a couple other games that are trapped on PS3 because of that. But if they did find this 360 version or building off of that, that would be great. Hopefully, because of that, there wouldn't be too many issues, if any, as far as getting optimization for all the different platforms, or just optimization in general. But then again, this is also Konami, so who knows? But I'm hoping that if this is the case, it goes well. I'm hoping that it does. Just don't let Konami be Konami. That's all I'm gonna say on that end. But at least and even if Konami is Konami, if it is based on the 360 version, modders should definitely be able to come out and at least fix any issues so that people can have a better experience. I'm not saying that they should have to do that, but at least we'll have that option there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I hope that it can end up being really good, because like as it stands right now, emulating the PS3 version of that game, the only version we have, you need a really beefy PC because the cell architecture is just so odd that it doesn't emulate well. Like, I've tried emulating that game on Steam Deck, and of course it just basically doesn't run.
Ugh.
And well, technically it runs, but it's not really running. And I can't remember. I think that, I mean, like there is a way to get it running pretty decently on PC, at least on my PC. But the main thing for me was that I already had the disc version. I wanted to just. I didn't really want to play through an emulator if I was going to be just playing on my PC. At that point, I'd rather just play it on the PS3, because it's like, if I'm going to be stuck to a screen anyway, at least playing it on the PS3, I know it's going to work the whole time. Whereas emulation, at least with PS3 games, is not always great. I've tried a variety of games, and a lot of them just don't run very well. Like, I think the best... the games that run the best on PS3, at least of the ones I've tested, like the God of War collection runs great, 60 frames, no problem. And the Ratchet and Clank Into the Nexus runs at the same frame rate as it does on PS3, which is about 30 frames per second. Which isn't great, but it's better than it runs on Steam Deck, where it will drop into the teens and lower. But anyway, all that being said, I definitely am hoping that the port will be decent whenever they actually do bring it out, because I would say it's pretty likely that they are going to have this as part of the next collection. As it stands right now, I'm probably not buying any of these collections anytime soon, particularly because I do have ways to play all the games already. And like, I was really excited about the Switch versions, and then I found out that all of them run at 30 frames per second, which there's just no excuse for that, especially considering the fact that they 2 and 3 ran at 60 on the PS3 and 360, and 1 can run at 60 on a potato. So there's just I'm not going back down that rabbit hole, but I have heard that there are some PC mods out there to make these games better, but basically until it gets to the point where everything is like top tier with the PC mods, and they have it running, and it's running well on PC and Steam Deck, I'm not even going to bother. And even then, I'm waiting for a steep discount, because as much as I love these games, I don't want to support Konami when they're doing these bare bones bottom shelf ports, where it's very clear that they're just not even trying. And it's sad, because take what are fantastic games, especially Snake Eater. But yeah, I'm hoping that maybe they'll kind of realize, especially after like Digital Foundry, I think they just recently did their thing, looking at the collection and basically said, "Oh, it's not good." Hopefully that'll kind of put some fire under the pants of Konami, and they'll actually make a more serious effort, and hopefully maybe consumers will just actually hold off on buying this collection until they actually make an effort to fix some things, because most of these things are just inexcusable. They just are. So anyway, but speaking of Snake Eater, we just got gameplay footage of Metal Gear Solid Delta, which is a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. And I mean, it's pre-alpha footage. Some aspects of it are a little stiff. The animations are a little stiff. It's Unreal Engine 5, and it does look really good. I will still be holding off on this one. It's probably not going to be a day one purchase for me, because I'm not sure I trust Konami to do a good port, or to do a good job with this game, but I'm hopeful. I mean, like I said, I played through Snake Eater 3 times just this year, and I thoroughly enjoy that game. I think it is fantastic. It's easily become probably within my top 10 favorite games of all time, which is saying a lot. But I just don't trust them. I just don't. I want to, because I was super excited when they announced this and everything, and then seeing like the early screenshots. I mean, everything they've shown is all from the Virtuous mission, the opening prologue mission. Like it's really early. It's like even just basically like the first half of the first mission, that opening mission, and so there's still plenty of stuff that they haven't shown yet, but it looks really good, and I'm remaining cautiously pessimistic though about it. I think that they're probably not going to change anything dramatically. Though I do wish that they would actually acknowledge Hideo Kojima's involvement, considering the fact that this is his game. Whether they want to admit it or not, I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of fresh coat of paint they put on it. The game, the gameplay, the story, it's all Kojima. Even the very crazy aspects of it. And it does have a pretty crazy story, but it's compelling. I love these stories. I find them super fascinating. And I know that Kojima is definitely one of those guys who gets pretty out there. I'm not sure if he's as bad as Nomura, as Tetsuya Nomura, but he hasn't had as many games available either. I mean, there's not as many Metal Gear games as there is Kingdom Hearts. Unless I could be wrong on that, actually. But I'm unsure how many of them are canon, whereas Kingdom Hearts, basically, they're technically all canon, and they're just really out there.
Yeah.
Which I was all on board for at first, but then it just started getting more and more convoluted. Anyway.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I agree.
So anyway, your thoughts on the Metal Gear Solid Delta gameplay footage?
I definitely agree that that it looks amazing. Definitely looking through the footage, and granted, it is an Unreal 5 and all the Unreal 5 games that they've shown, and also it's nice that this is actual in-game footage and not just pre-rendered cutscenes, which every company seems to be doing these days. But it does look nice. I agree with you though that there's still a lot of skepticism here because you don't know what Konami's going to do. Additionally, also the fact that it is on Unreal 5. Unreal 5 engine is still kind of new, and we've seen that games like Unspoken, that game had some problems with it, with the engine and stuff, and I think even a couple other games.
I don't think that one was Unreal. I'm pretty sure. Or
that one wasn't.
If it was Unreal, I think it was Unreal 4. No, I don't think that one was 5. I could be wrong. Okay. We'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that one was 5.
Okay. But either way, I think I heard at least one game that was being initially revealed as an Unreal Engine 5 game. It had some sort of issues with it, so I think that because it's still new, it's a bit. I think I would rather. Granted, someone has to be the guinea pig, but I really wish that have some other people sort of test the waters first before everyone understands how it works, how the engine works, knows what sort of problems you might have with it before you start developing more games. I mean, again, this is a sort of I guess chicken or the egg. Like you have to have people understand the engine, but you also have to make the games for it first before you can understand the engine and learn out all the bugs. Because I mean, even Unreal Engine 4, I mean, 3 also to a degree, but that also sort of had bugs in it as well. So it's nice. But then I guess another thing is the fact that this is the first major, I don't necessarily remember what the older ones had, but this is the first Metal Gear game, new Metal Gear game that isn't being used with the Kojima engine. That's pretty big right now. And I guess also on that end also, which is kind of sad going back to your point, but I definitely think they will not mention Kojima, considering the fact that they erased his name in the collection. They cut his name completely out, and any mentioned Kojima Studios, it's gone. So I have a feeling they're gonna do the same thing here. They're just gonna erase him, which is really sad. But that's Konami. They have these weird grudges.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just... I've become a bit of a Kojima fanboy. I mean, I haven't I haven't experienced all his stuff yet. You know, I still have, of course, finishing Phantom Pain, and then I haven't played like Portable Ops or the Metal Gear Acid games. I haven't played the original Metal Gear or Metal Gear 2. I haven't played Metal Gear Ghost Babel. I have most of those, at least through emulation. The ones that I didn't have the ability to purchase, I just got through emulation. I even have what you call it, the GameCube one, Twin Snakes.
Twin Snakes.
I mean, yeah, I just have that, you know, once again through emulation, and I briefly tried it out on Steam Deck. Seems to run well, but the controls are wonky. Or at least they felt wonky compared with other versions, but maybe it was just because of I mean, like you had to like hold the start button and then press another button in order to do things like go to the communicator, or the, what you call it,
gosh,
it's like you'd think I would know this because I've played a bunch of these games this year.
It's not radio, is it? I mean, I know that you see radio on there, but
maybe they do call it the communicator. I don't know. I'm spacing out on what it's actually called, but that's gonna bug me until I can remember. Anyway, yeah, the controls were a little wonky, but anyway. So the point is that I've liked the Kojima games I've played so far, and someone gave me a free copy of Death Stranding earlier this year, and I've heard that one runs pretty well on Steam Deck as well. So it's like, hey, when I finish the main Metal Gear games, then I'm gonna go play Death Stranding. Probably before I go back and play like Portable Ops and the 2D games and stuff, I'll do Death Stranding. But yeah. Anyway, that was definitely a side tangent based on Kojima not being included, with his name not being attached to the remake and all that, erasing him from the collection. But anyway, all this is just I will give Konami the benefit of the doubt in thinking that they might actually do this remake some justice, but I'm still not giving them my money until I actually see a good finished product. And I'm not expecting it to run well on Steam Deck. I pretty much assume that it won't. But that's okay, because as long as it runs well on PC, that's what really matters to me at this point. Yes, I would like to have it on Steam Deck, but worst case scenario, I can stream it to my Steam Deck, and then I'll at least have that option. But anyway. So, speaking of PC, Microsoft has put out a new policy on unauthorized accessories, unauthorized third-party accessories for the Xbox. And this is going to be effective as of November 12th of this year. So basically just less than 2 weeks from now. And they've already basically put out an error code that pops up when people try to use certain unauthorized third-party accessories on their Xbox. That basically says this is, it's not, I can't remember the exact wording. You want to pull that up and see if you can find that information? I can't remember.
Yeah, let me just quickly pull that up.
But the gist of it is that it's basically this error message is popping up and telling people that these things are not supported, and they're saying that come November 12th, these particular accessories are just not going to work anymore.
The connected accessories not authorized, using unauthorized accessories compromises your gaming experience. For this reason, the unauthorized accessory will be blocked from use on November 12th, 2023. There it is.
Yeah. So the part that's still unclear about this is what exactly are unauthorized. Is it just when people are using like things that are specifically enabling them to essentially cheat? Is it I don't know what are the limits on this? I mean, I'm not really clear on this. I mean, they say that lots of third party accessories are approved, so theoretically, as long as it's an approved third party accessory, it shouldn't cause any problems, and most third party stuff should work fine. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Well, my thoughts were initially completely negative, but then once I actually read a little more and then also got some other, saw a couple of other articles, I just can understand. Like, I was initially was against this completely because I don't believe that someone who bought a console should be barred from using whatever accessories they want to use on it to, to play their games.
Mm-hmm.
But then I learned, it's to fight cheaters, especially since I know the one is specifically the Zim. That one primarily is for people to use to cheat because they'll use a mouse and keyboard, attach it to it, and the console still registers it as a controller. So essentially, from that point, you're actually getting the aim assistance of a controller with the precision of a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
So you're getting that sort of double accuracy, and if you're playing a competitive game, that really is you're cheating, plain and simple, at that point. So I understand why they want to do that. On the other hand, though, and this is something that I saw from like people who had left comments and talking about that, is it really hurts the people who play fighting games, especially because they have their own fight pads that they bring in, and that really messes them up. Because if you're primarily playing these fighting games with fight pads, you go to, say, a convention or somewhere like that, and you bring your fight pad up to the console, you plug it in, you can't use it anymore because it's been banned. And for people who are dedicated to fighting games, that's all they use. They don't use controllers because it just doesn't work for them. Differently, I guess, also input and just delaying and all that stuff like that. So that definitely affects them. And I don't know, because I know that they didn't specify how something is authorized, but I'm guess generally just on a guess is that anything that isn't licensed. So I guess if it's something, I mean, I guess to a degree, sort of like if you see a product for a Nintendo game or something like that, or even an accessory, you'll see that licensed by Nintendo sticker right on that product. So I guess I don't know if it's something like that where a game has to receive the license. I haven't purchased many, or if any at all, Microsoft products, so I don't know what if they have any sort of packaging or anything like that where it says licensed by Microsoft or licensed by Xbox, anything like that. I would hope so if it helps, but it really does suck though, because while I understand and I definitely agree, like, I don't like cheaters. I think cheaters are horrible because they take a lot of fun away from playing a game, and it's partially why I don't really play multiplayer games much, except outside of playing with friends, doing co-op stuff. But I definitely understand why they want to fight cheaters. But at the same hand, though, banning I mean, it's not a ban, but restricting what people can use on their Xbox. Like, if you bought the console, you should be able to do what you want on that console. Granted, if you're going to interfere with how other people play on multiplayer, that's a different thing. But I think if you're playing something by yourself in a single player, I think you should do whatever you want in that single player experience. And that would also include using whatever controls you want to use. So I really don't like that part. And it also is kind of, it's also kind of off-putting, the fact that Microsoft can just go flip a switch, enter some code in, and then all of a sudden you can't use whatever you were using before. That's also kind of I don't really care for that part either. So I guess at the end of the day, I understand what they're doing, but I don't like that they're doing it. That's where I stand.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see how far this blocking goes. Because, like you're pointing out the specific fight pads, fight sticks, all that like people who are in the competitive scene for fighting games are using, you definitely don't want to be blocking those accessories. And it's hard to know exactly what of those accessories is actually going to be blocked versus, is already good to go. Definitely, though, I also am fully in agreement with you that, I don't like people who are specifically cheating. I mean, I've definitely had plenty of experiences dealing with cheaters, and it really takes away the enjoyment for a lot of people. And it's just like, it's one thing when you're playing against people who are just legitimately skilled players. And I've definitely played against lots of those because I'm not that skilled. And, with the exception of games where I've actually had the opportunity to play with skill-based matchmaking, where it basically kind of matches me with people of similar skill, in which case, at least personally, I always find that super fun. That's way more fun than playing against and getting, mopped, someone mopping the floor with me and my teammates, or, vice versa, me mopping the floor with some other group of people, especially when I'm not skilled. But the cheaters, when you come across those, it's a lot worse. I don't think I've come across as many cheaters as like some of the higher tier players have come across, because typically the high tier players are going to come across the cheaters more often, because the cheaters are the ones who are winning more often because they're cheating. But yeah, I don't know. We're just gonna have to kind of wait and see what happens with this. I don't know. I'm really mixed on my opinion on the matter, mostly just because I feel like we don't know enough, and I'm hoping that we'll get some clarification, and that Microsoft, if they haven't already, set something aside especially for the competitive players who are using the fight sticks, the fight pads, to be able to use those things. I'm hoping that they will, because I mean, the people who are really into this stuff, that's what they play with. That is, what I mean. They get as good as they are by playing a specific way all the time. And while some people can adapt and switch around as needed, might even have to, it's still just, putting people in that position when you don't really need to over something like this. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what actually happens with it. But connected with Microsoft, or rather formerly connected with Microsoft, Bungie, which is now, of course, owned by PlayStation, but was formerly a Microsoft-owned studio back in the early Halo days, has just laid off 100 people and has delayed their next expansion of Destiny to the final shape from February of next year to June of next year, as well as delayed their, I guess you could say, rebirth maybe of their very first game, Marathon. Delayed that from being released next year to being released in 2025. There's been some various information that's come out about this. One thing we do know is that the decision to lay off the employees was not a Sony decision. This was a Bungie management decision. So before, any Xbox fanboys are in the comments blaming, like we have any comments, but before any Xbox fanboys are going and blaming Sony on this matter, it's not Sony that made this decision. I can't believe I'm defending Sony, but Sony did not make the decision. Bungie made the decision. And Yeah, there's really a lot to this, and um, it's kind of a complicated issue. But before I start, I mean, as a Destiny player myself, before I get into my thoughts, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, it's definitely uh, because even as I was looking at the information, watching different videos, I thought there was so much stuff. I was even trying to make some notes about what I was even seeing and stuff, but it's really messy because the key thing though that I saw that I noticed was the fact that there wasn't any sort of plan to cut any of the Bungie employees. Like it said that everyone was fine, and
Right.
then a year later, that was when the layoff started.
Yep.
And even then, I think one of the worst part. I mean, that was bad enough as it was, but the fact that the employees, this, they were told to be hush hush about this,
Mhm.
like to not say goodbye to any of the employees. The employees who had unvested stocks, when they were laid off, they lost those stocks and they went straight back to the company. So I think that how they got rid of these people is horrible. And like how they handled it was completely. I know that we've talked about layoffs several several times, if not more so.
Right.
But I feel like this has to be the worst handling of a layoff from a company so far. Um, if not close, it definitely is the worst one because how do you just try to covertly lay off all these people, and then especially after saying everyone's fine, we're not laying off anyone, and then you lay off all the people. And again, it wasn't even Sony's decision. This was all Bungie saying
Right.
to do that. And then people people who had stocks, company stocks, they lose those stocks because you fired them essentially, telling people that they can't talk to anyone about it. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know also if it has to do with how uh well Bungie was also working on the Last of Us 2 multiplayer, correct? The factions originally they were going to be.
They were basically what's the word I'm looking for? Consulting on it.
Okay,
Basically,
okay.
they went and took a look at it and basically told PlayStation to take it back to the drawing board.
Okay, so that wasn't okay. So that wasn't one them then. So I know that Lightfall, from what I heard, was not meeting expectations. So I don't know if that was the reason why. But even then, you know, they could have handled this in a much better way. And I know that it's definitely. I don't know how if that's even because I haven't played Marathon, the original Marathon, or any of the other games.
Mm-hmm.
I did download them earlier this year because I found out that they actually were released completely free. And you could actually get them on pretty much any platform. Even I think there were even mobile ports that were made for them. So I did download them, but I haven't touched them yet. But I don't know if I also don't know if they're afraid of marathon of development because it's been so long, and so far they've only been doing Destiny. I don't know if also they're concerned about what will happen if they're putting so much effort into this, or even just splitting attention between any additional Destiny content and Marathon. I don't, but even then, still, I would think you wouldn't want to cut people out, let go of people when there's so much to do. Especially another thing is the fact that they cut out some big name people like Michael Salvatore, who did music for the Halo games, and oh gosh,
And Michael Salvatore and
um,
the other guy. It's like it's on the tip of my brain. Let me look on my phone because I actually have these. I have the soundtracks.
let me see.
But it's I know the name, but yes, and they've done the soundtracks for Destiny as well.
Marty O'Donnell.
Yes, Mario O'Donnell. That's right. Yep. Yeah, but both of them got laid off as part of this whole thing.
And I can't remember her name, but she also did the artwork for the original Halo, especially the Halo ring logo.
Yeah.
So you're getting rid of these legends of Bungie, and I'm just thinking, what's going on over there? Uh, I mean, I'm definitely also am interested in hearing your thoughts because, especially as a longtime Destiny player,
Right.
like I know that you definitely would have some good thoughts on that.
Right. So from listening to some of the information that's come out, one of the main reasons for these layoffs is because basically I don't know the exact numbers of what it was they set as their goals for this year for revenue, but basically they've made 45% less than what they were expecting to make this year, and so the layoffs are a result of that. And um, from what seems like what it seems like happened. Well, for one, Lightfall has definitely underperformed, which is understandable. Lightfall had some big issues. Most notably, the story was a big problem. There's also just kind of like this seasonal model that they've had going on for the past few years that has gotten really stale for people, and just player engagement is really low compared to where it has been in previous years. And then on top of that, they're working on Marathon, and apparently, this is a fairly recent thing. There were some players who Marathon is intended to be. I'm trying to remember what genre they were saying that it's going to be. It's on the tip of my brain, but anyway, it's something similar to Escape from Tarkov. And they brought in some influencers who are heavily into Escape from Tarkov and let them demo the game in its current state. And at the end of it all, they asked the people, how many of you, if this game were to release tomorrow, would want to play it? And nobody raised their hands. So as a result, they've delayed Marathon, of course. And because Destiny was basically how they were funding the production of Marathon, because of all the money that it makes, they basically got in a position where they had to lay some people off in order to basically make it work. Now, I definitely am. I'm still kind of processing everything that they did with the divesting of stocks and all of that. I'm not about that. Like, I'm just not at all. I think that some of the things that they've done with this are just, they're just not right. But I don't have a full enough amount of thoughts on that aspect because I'm just trying to think through all these things, and I'm still kind of processing all the information since it's still pretty new. What I will say is, Destiny is one of those games that I've really enjoyed over the years. I started playing in 2015, early 2015, primarily because I had a friend who did all the visual effects for the vanilla version of Destiny 1. And he was actually in Alaska. Oh, I mean, I knew him from my small town in Alaska. And this was just vanilla Destiny 1, just first year, all that, but that was, and I also had friends who were playing it, and I wasn't really into doing shooters on consoles because I was bad at the dual joystick thing, but I decided to give it a try, ended up falling in love with the game, and played it heavily, especially that first year, and then my son was born, and from there my time diminished a lot, and I've had like times where I'll be playing for, every day for, well, maybe not every day, but, frequently for, weeks on end, and then take a long multi-month break, or, I'll just kind of play periodically here and there, but it tends to be more like I'll take long breaks, play heavy for a couple weeks, and then take another long break, and I already pre-purchased the final shape because I do want to see how the story ends, and I've been so invested in this to where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna finish this out, and then at the end of the final shape, whether they decide to do anything further with Destiny or not, I'm out because I can't devote the time to it anymore. I just can't. I want to play other games, and as much as I love Destiny, it's too bloated of a game at this point. Even with the content they've cut out, it's still too bloated. There's just too much to do, and I just don't have the time to keep up with it. All that being said, this whole situation with the layoffs, it sucks. One thing that I will say when it comes to Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore being let go as well, with the fantastic music they put out, that really bothered me. I did find out that they did already finish recording all the music for Final Shape, and it is possible that maybe they were already planning on retiring. I believe, I can't remember which one of them. It was one of the two of them that's like 70 years old, and he may have just been ready to be done anyway. Because he's been doing it for a really long time. I mean, I don't think he's quite as old as like John Williams, but definitely still been doing it for a long time, and they're both fantastic composers. Do excellent music. The music, the soundtracks in Destiny and Destiny 2 have been absolutely stellar. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still processing a lot of this. I definitely think that there should have been better ways to handle this. If all this was hush hush, basically I'm trying to hide the fact that they were doing this, that's not a good way to handle it. Like you said, I'm not sure if this is worse or if the Epic Games ones were worse, because the Epic, more just because of the Epic Games ones being because they were spending too much money, and it's like, well, you could, I don't know, do something at the top. But with Bungie, it's a different story. It's still, I feel like it's definitely some scummy stuff. And honestly, I would halfway consider refunding my purchase if I had the option. But I don't, because I bought it through Green Man Gaming and I already activated the key. So, there's that, but I don't know. I really don't know what else to say. I think I need more information as time goes on. I definitely think that Bungie needs to figure these things out, and I feel like they're not doing as much for the employees as they should be doing. I don't think they should have cut them off right here and now, right before the holidays and everything.
Oh yeah, especially now.
That part bothers me more than anything else, because it's like, a lot of these people have families, and getting unemployed right at the end. I mean, yes, like health insurance, I guess, is continuing through the end of the year, so that at least there's that. That's good. But if these people were not financially prepared for being unemployed, depending on what kind of money they can get from unemployment, which probably won't be very much, this could cause a significant financial strain, especially if it's, single income household. Like, I mean, if I lost my job, it would definitely be rough. I have a decent amount of savings because of inheritance and stuff, but, like, it would be hard enough for me and for people who don't necessarily have that benefit, or, don't have a second income, if they were in my situation but didn't have the benefit that I have, it would be much rougher. And I guess at this point, it's like, I don't know. I want to hear more. I want to kind of get a better idea, and I'm hoping that all these people will land on their feet, that they'll find jobs and be able to provide for their families as needed, and that I don't know. I'm hoping Bungie will just decide to do something better, but I don't have a whole lot of faith in that. Layoffs are an inevitable part of just game development. It's a normal thing, unfortunately. I mean, it's a normal thing in general, but especially right now with current state of the economy and everything else, it sucks. So let's get into that next story regarding Atari. So you want to cover this one?
Yeah. So it has been announced. I pretty certain that it's already happened, but the announcement happened after it sort of was revealed. Atari has purchased a developing company called Digital Eclipse, and Digital Eclipse, they've primarily been as far as lately, they've been primarily doing compilation games, collections. So sort of like Disney Afternoon Collection, the first Mega Man Legacy Collection. The second one, I believe, was actually done by Capcom, but they did the first collection. And a couple other Atari compilation games. So they've been doing that. They did also have two recent games. Well, actually, one's in early access, but they did the making of. Oh gosh, it's Karataka, or I can't remember what that name is, but it's sort of an interactive documentary of a game that they were working on that they didn't necessarily complete. And then they're also, the one they're currently doing is called Wizardry, which is a remake of an older dungeon crawling RPG that they made. And primarily they haven't, everything else they've done in the past has just been handheld games, so stuff like Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. And actually, I was wondering why Digital Eclipse sounded so familiar until I went back and looked at their history, and then I saw they actually did Spider-Man 2 on the Game Boy Advance, which was actually how I first heard about them, and the first Spider-Man game I played. So that's how I heard about them. But I'm really interested, though, because Atari has already been making their own sort of compilations. They've done that primarily with just standalone compilation games. They've done that for different consoles like Xbox. They've done it for, I think they've done that for PlayStation as well. I know they did it for Switch as well. They released compilations of games, and they also had their plug and play consoles with compilations of their older games. And I don't remember whatever happened with their VCS. I don't know what happened with that. I know that was supposed to be a thing, but Atari definitely also isn't the same Atari that it used to be after it went bankrupt. So I'm wondering why they're interested in Digital Eclipse, because they've already been doing their own compilations. So I don't know why they need another company that's been doing compilations to make more compilations for them that they've already done. But I do know that Digital Eclipse is supposed to be. They're supposed to still be doing their own sort of thing. So it's sort of the situation as Bungie, where they're owned by a higher company, but they still have free reign to do their own stuff. So I'm kind of interested in seeing what's going to happen there, because I mean it's definitely interesting, because, and I also kind of hope that Digital Eclipse does start to make more of their own games instead of doing these collections. Not that I dislike what they've done. Like I did like the fact that they brought back Mega Man, and I mean I played the Mega Man Legacy Collection on the 3DS, and I liked it enough. So if they keep doing that, that's fine. But I'm hoping that this isn't something that they're just going to be attached to, especially since they've been doing so many of those lately. The fact that they're doing one's a documentary-ish sort of thing, but also kind of a game. I would like to see them go back to making their own games, and I'm hoping that Atari doesn't just. I mean, again, they have free reign, but I just don't want to see them slip back into that niche or slip back into that genre of project of just collections.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something where we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens with it. I am a little skeptical about Atari because,
Mm-hmm.
the VCS basically, I think they might have sent out some units, but it basically didn't go anywhere, which wasn't really surprising. I mean, I think there were very few people who, when they heard about the Atari VCS, actually thought it was going to do anything, or that it was even going to release. So we'll see if this actually goes anywhere. I'm hoping that they'll just make a good use of this company, even if it is just doing more compilations. I don't know. I really don't have a lot of thoughts on the matter, but hopefully it goes well for him, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the last topic that I have for tonight, Dr. Serkan Toto, who is an analyst who has numerous times made predictions about things that he believes are coming, has said that later this year, and this is technically this isn't a quote from him, but it's I guess he released a tweet and was saying something about ZR 2023, and the implication, because I guess the tweet's since been deleted. I don't have the screenshot handy. If you are able to track that down, that would be great. But basically saying that the theory is that there is either a Zelda remake or remaster collection coming this year, and it has been rumored for quite a while that there was going to be a collection with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess released for the Switch, and apparently this has been ready for a while. It's one of those things that Nintendo's just been holding on to, but hasn't released yet. And there's other, various rumors of potential remakes, that sort of thing, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Okay, here's actually, I think I've properly deciphered this actually. It's actually, ZR actually stands for, it represents the Nintendo Switch right trigger, because that is called ZR. So they're actually going to be making an analog trigger for the right trigger. But
it's going to be just the right Joy-Con with an analog trigger.
Yeah, no, the left one still is digital, but the right one's going to be analog. But I do think, though, that this is really one of those vague predictions that people do where they'll say, it's going to rain soon. Like, yes, I think a lot of people believe that it's going to rain soon. It's just a matter of when. And I do believe that Nintendo likely is going to have a Zelda HD collection of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, but I don't think that's really something. I think it's something that's just something, because looking at the information that we had before, this person has made claims before, especially saying that there was going to be Zelda 2022 or Breath of the Wild 2022,
right,
and it didn't release in 2022, it released in 2023 under the name, of course, Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
So and of course we did know that there was going to be a Breath of the Wild sequel. Nintendo had already long since announced that. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a situation where it is likely to happen, but it's just one of those things, like I was saying before, if someone makes a prediction, it's going to rain soon. Okay, I think we expect that, but you make it sound like this is something new that's going to happen. So, could it still happen in 2023? Possibly. But I don't think this. But this is, oh gosh, this is November 1st, or at least as of
Yeah.
this recording, it's November 1st.
Mhm.
So we're in November. 2023 is almost over. So I highly doubt Nintendo's just going to shadow drop the game and say, hey, here's the HD collection. Like, even if it is just an HD collection, this is something that I feel they would want to announce ahead of time. Give it at least 3 months. Now, I could be wrong, though, just because of the fact, more or less, Nintendo shadow dropped Metroid Prime this year.
Yep.
Now, granted, Metroid Prime is nowhere near as big as Zelda. So actually, because of that, let me. Okay, I might actually want to slightly retract my statement, because I can actually see this either way. Because Metroid's not as big as Zelda, Nintendo could shadow drop Zelda and it would do very well. At the same hand, though, I feel that because Zelda's so big, they wouldn't want to shadow drop it because it's a big franchise and they want to get as many people on board for this.
Yeah.
But if it isn't a HD collection, I would feel maybe it is something sort of as what they did with the Mario games. So maybe something like Zelda 1, 2, Link to the Past, maybe the Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, maybe something like that. If not just the Oracle games, and maybe, well, they already did the remake of Link's Awakening, so I doubt they would put in the original Link's Awakening in there or not. So it might be something like that, unless they want to do the Game Boy Advance games, something like that. So if it is something like the older games, I could see them shadow dropping that. But I don't know. At the same, but either way though, I think this is just so vague of a prediction to make that I don't know how credible this really is. And then also, it's a Nintendo rumor, and those, yeah, how many of those are actually real?
Yeah, dime a dozen. Yeah, so I think that it is possible this could be shadow dropped, and I would think Game Awards would be the easiest time for them to do that. You know, about a month away, I could very easily see them doing that. Doing the digital version, shadow dropped at the Game Awards, and the physical version comes out either late December or early January. Something to that effect. Potentially, it could be longer than that. I think with like the Pikmin 1 and 2 HD, they shadow dropped that at the Direct for the digital version, and then the physical version came out in September. And I'm pretty sure that the Direct was in June, I want to say. Pretty sure. So, I mean, in that case, it was a longer gap. Whether or not it would be that way in this case, I'm not sure. That is one thing I could see as a potential thing that could happen. The 2D collection, maybe. I think that one's a little bit less likely because most of the 2D games are already on Nintendo Switch Online. And so I think there would be less incentive for people to actually buy those. I mean, you would definitely get sales, but I don't think it would be nearly as many as you would if you did Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD, especially as a bundle. Some people have suggested things like, doing Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, like maybe even just a compilation of the 3DS game versions, which I think would be best because those are the best versions overall. Even though there's definitely, at least with the 64 version of Majora's Mask, there are some aspects that are a little bit better, but it's really mostly just like the Zora swimming that's better in the 64 version. Everything else is really better in the 3DS version. I don't know. There's a variety of potential things that could happen if this were legitimate. I will remain cautiously pessimistic on the matter. And at the same time, I'm not sure I want to buy it. Now, if they do the collection, I think $60 would be worth it. because these are great games. But if they release them individually, it probably wouldn't. Because it's like, okay, well, I have Wind Waker on GameCube and on Wii U, and I also can play it on my Steam Deck, and it plays really well there. Looks really good, plays really well. There's actually, I did, for those who are watching the video version, I will have shown some gameplay. Not necessarily well-played gameplay, because I didn't remember the controls super well, but gameplay of me playing Wind Waker HD on the Steam Deck. But I'm not sure I really want to buy the game again, as much as I love it. And with Twilight Princess, I have the Wii version, the GameCube version, and the Wii U version. And once again, I'm not sure if I really want to buy the game again, unless it's in a 2-pack. The 2-pack is the one thing that would convince me. But even that, I'm not sure if it would be an early purchase or if I would wait until it's on sale, which will take a while, but you know, if I can get it for $40 instead of $60, that's probably more worth it. So, yeah, but like you said, you know, these direct rumor, or not direct rumors, but, well, direct rumors and Nintendo rumors in general are a dime a dozen, and we get so many of them, and most of them are just complete BS. So, we'll wait and see what happens, as with most things. But I'm definitely not... I'm not sure if this is something that I actually want. Even though it would look really good on that OLED screen. Especially Wind Waker. Wind Waker would look fantastic. But, okay, the one thing that would convince me to buy both of these day one, or at least if it was a combo pack, is if it was 60 frames per second.
Ooh.
Because the Steam Deck doesn't emulate it, the Wii U version at 60, it only does 30. I mean, it does a solid 30, it stays at 30 the whole time, but yeah, it won't emulate, it will not do 60 through emulation. At least not on the Steam Deck. I would imagine probably on a desktop it will do 60 and above, but at least on the Steam Deck, I don't know of any way to change that. So, I don't know. Any other news items you want to cover, or thoughts in general about stuff we've talked about?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, so let's get into the closing of our show. So, start off with your recommendation and dissuasion for the week.
Alright, my recommendation is, if you are interested in getting a collection of games, whether they're games that you've been interested in, or maybe you've just been interested in a couple of them, but there are other games that you might be interested in as well, I recommend checking out Humble Bundle's collections of games, because for less than $20, you could get 6 games, or maybe even a few more. And that's what I've actually been doing for the past several months. They've had a couple good collections that I've seen that I've been interested in. Definitely a good way to get some games. In fact, I know that one collection I got for $30 was Resident Evil 0 through 6, plus the 2 Revelation games, and a coupon for Resident Evil 7 as well. So that was a pretty good deal. And then, they've got different other stuff. So if it's something you like doing on PC, they might have had something once or twice for Nintendo Switch games. I can't remember. I do know that they sell Nintendo Switch digital codes, but I don't know if they had any bundles for games. So that's something you could check out.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that there's also a bundle. I don't know if it's still going on, but it's a WB Games bundle that has all the Arkham games, or at least the 3 main ones. Plus, it also has like Gotham Knights, which I don't know if that one's any good. Most people have said it's not great, but some people like it. And I think it also has Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War in there. as well. Shadow of Mordor at least is fantastic. What I played of Shadow of War I liked, but I haven't finished it. But yeah, very good recommendation. I don't do Humble Bundles a whole lot, but it's more just because there tends to be a lot of stuff I don't want to play in them, or I have most of the games that are in the bundle, and I'm like, I don't know. Well, sometimes I'm not really a fan of the things that they support, or I guess I should say more. I'm not a fan of IGN and any giving them any money. If I can avoid giving them money, I prefer to do that. But anyway, for my recommendation, I am going to recommend Ghost Runner 2. I think I've got like maybe 6 or 7 hours in it total, something like that. But what I played of it is so good. Let's hear my hour count right now. Waiting for it to load in my Steam library. I have just under 5 hours. But it is fantastic. As I've said previously, Ghost Runner is one of those games that it's hard, but it's fair. When you die, you'll go back to the beginning of the checkpoint, but it's immediate, it's instant. There's no load times whatsoever. Even when you're playing like the Switch version of the first game, it's instantaneous. You immediately go back to the checkpoint, and most of the time it's just figuring out exactly, how to avoid the particular thing that you got killed by, or you just made like one slight platforming error, whatever it happens to be. And I mean, I think there's a good reason why the developer is called One More Level, because you're just like one more try, one more try, and you just keep going, and then you finish it, and you're like, I want to keep going. Let's keep going. And I mean, yeah, you'll definitely have times where you'll get frustrated and you'll probably want to quit, but I feel like this one's way more fair than like Dark Souls and that sort of thing, where you get sent way back and you have to go through a bunch of enemies over again in order to get back to the point where you left off. Whereas this, it's like you get back to the beginning of that checkpoint, which is usually the beginning of an encounter. And yes, if you get hit once, you die and have to go back to the checkpoint, but it's once again instantaneous. And it's just the design of these levels is fantastic. It is very twitchy at times, but in a good way, at least in my opinion. And the music is blood pumping and just chef's kiss. I love this game so far. And probably once I finish up going through... once I finish up Red Dead Redemption 2, I'll be jumping back into Ghost Runner. I just kind of want to finish up the story on this before I get back into Ghost Runner, because Ghost Runner is something I could just play constantly for a while. And it probably won't be a super long game. I don't know how long this one is compared to the first game, but the first game was like 12 to 15 hours for the whole thing. So, yeah, that's my recommendation for the week. So, your dissuasion.
My dissuasion, and this I actually sort of changed up in because of something that I saw yesterday. My dissuasion: don't hang up your Christmas decorations now. I was coming home from work yesterday. I saw on a community sign there was a Christmas wreath and garland hung up on the sign, and I'm thinking, I just saw trick-or-treaters a couple blocks back, and there's already Christmas decorations up. I sadly expect that from Walmart, but from general people. Please don't hang up your Christmas decorations. It's too early. I'm personally struggling to not listen to Christmas music, but don't display Christmas decorations when we've barely gotten into November. Wait a little later, at least a week before Thanksgiving, please. That's all I have to say.
Alright, well, my dissuasion is don't tell me what I can't do. No, I have not hung up my Christmas decorations yet. I never took down my ones outside last year, mostly just because it was a hassle, and I need to get a taller ladder so that I can actually hang my lights up higher. Because I just have a short ladder that was inherited, and the houses, the higher parts of the front of the house are just too tall, even for a tall person to reach with my ladder. So I need a tall ladder. But no. Though I also never took down the Christmas lights that I have hung up in my room. I always have those plugged in because it's not because the overhead light is really bright, and so I always have the Christmas lights plugged in, and then if I need to, I will switch out a strand. But usually I only have to do that once a year. So, but no, really my dissuasion. Don't support Konami's terrible port of Metal Gear Solid. These ports are not worth your money. Make them fix the games before you buy them. Don't give in to the hype. And like, I get it. I love these games too. But this is one situation where they're not going to pull them down anytime soon. They just re-released them after having pulled them down previously. Just don't give them your money right now. Wait until, at the very minimum, if you're doing like PC, Steam Deck, that there are enough mods and fixes to where the game can run better and look better, because these ports are just bad ports. And if you're on console, especially on Switch, don't buy these games, because Konami needs to learn that they can't just do the bare minimum and get away with it and still get sales. Obviously, you can do what you want with your money. You know, if you can completely ignore what I'm saying, that's your decision. It's your money. But my dissuasion is, don't buy these games. Whether you take my advice or not is up to you, but I still think you should not buy these games. I'm not buying them, not yet. I'm waiting, and I may not buy them at all if Konami doesn't do something to fix them, or if I don't at the very least find that PC modders do a good job really fixing these games up. So, that's mine. Any other thoughts?
No, but I think that's a very good dissuasion. Very good.
Alright, so where can people find you?
You can find me at my channel, I am Zeracon, that is IAMXERACON, and the little @ handle is the same, at I am Zeracon.
And you can find me on I'm getting my brain mixed up. Yeah, youtube.com/I am getting my brain mixed up. There's our title. youtube.com/@thefrozengamer87. I just recently did, as mentioned earlier, a 24-hour live stream raising money for the Stack Up charity. You can still donate to that if you'd like. Donations will be available through the end of the year, but even if you don't donate, it's fine. We met the goal. I set a higher goal. I wouldn't mind meeting that, but even if I don't, I still appreciate it. You can all 3 parts of that live stream are available. I'm going to try seeing maybe if I can break up the individual pieces of the live stream and repost those separately. But otherwise, you can check out any one of the 3 8-hour segments, or rather, one was 6.5, and then 2.5, and then the next part was 8, and then the next part after that was 8. Because I had to restart my computer partway through the first stream, fix audio issues. So, there's all that. But until next time, I'm the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast, and don't fake the funk on a nasty dunk. We'll see you next week. Orange Box Podcast out.